In Fyodor Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, the figure of Liza occupies a pivotal role in Part 2 of the novella, where the abstract musings of the underground man collide with lived human experience. Though she appears in only a small portion of the narrative, Liza is one of the most significant characters in the work. She functions as a foil to the underground man, a symbol of compassion and dignity, and a narrative test for the philosophical claims advanced in Part 1. Her presence exposes both the underground man's desperate yearning for connection and his incapacity to achieve it. Role in the narrative. Liza enters the story when the underground man, after a humiliating evening with his former schoolmates, encounters her at a brothel. Initially, she appears to be a minor figure, one among many women who might have been fleetingly mentioned. Yet Dostoevsky deliberately develops her into a fully realized character whose presence reshapes the meaning of the second part of the novel. Their first conversation sets the tone. In a cruel and manipulative speech, the underground man paints a bleak picture of Liza's future, suggesting that her life as a prostitute will inevitably end in degradation and despair. His words are meant to unsettle her, yet he also reveals genuine insight into the social conditions and human suffering that accompany her situation. Liza, far from being a passive victim, listens with dignity, allowing his words to penetrate without collapsing into despair. This initial encounter creates a tension. She recognizes his cruelty but also perceives a kernel of truth in his observations. Later, when Liza comes to visit the underground man at his home, the narrative reaches its emotional climax. Her arrival offers him the possibility of genuine human intimacy and redemption. She shows compassion toward him despite his bitter and defensive demeanor. For a moment, the underground man allows his vulnerability to surface, breaking down in tears before her. Yet this brief opening to human connection is quickly destroyed when he lashes out with cruelty and insults, humiliating her to reassert his dominance. Liza's silent departure, leaving him with a mixture of regret and rage, closes the narrative on a note of tragic failure. Thus, narratively, Liza provides the underground man with an opportunity for transformation, which he tragically rejects. Her role is not only that of a secondary character but of a moral touchstone. She tests whether the underground man can overcome his self-imposed isolation and spite. His failure in this test crystallizes the bleak vision of the novella. Liza represents an alternative mode of being to the underground man. Whereas he is consumed by hyperconsciousness, resentment, and self-destructive pride, she embodies sincerity, compassion, and resilience. Despite her marginalized position as a prostitute, she retains a sense of dignity and an openness to authentic feeling. She listens attentively, responds without pretension, and shows a capacity for empathy that the underground man lacks. Her visit to him is particularly revealing. It demonstrates her willingness to extend compassion to someone who insulted and degraded her. She sees beyond his cruelty and glimpses his humanity. In this sense, she functions as both a mirror and a challenge. She reflects the underground man's desperate need for love and acceptance, while simultaneously challenging his inability to respond to it with authenticity. Symbolic significance. Liza embodies the possibility of salvation through compassion and human connection. Her willingness to care for the underground man despite his cruelty symbolizes the chance for redemption that Dostoevsky believed was always open to individuals, even the most degraded. Yet this possibility is fragile. It depends on the individual's free choice to accept it. The underground man's rejection of her symbolizes the tragic refusal of grace and intimacy. In 19th-century literature, prostitutes often functioned as symbols of moral degradation or as vehicles for redemption narratives. Liza complicates this trope. While she is socially marginalized, Dostoevsky portrays her with moral depth and dignity. She is not merely a symbol of sin but a human being capable of moral clarity, compassion, and resilience. Through her, Dostoevsky subverts stereotypes and emphasizes the humanity of the socially outcast. Broader implications. On a broader level, Liza embodies Dostoevsky's critique of modern alienation and his insistence on the possibility of redemption through compassion. whereas the underground man represents the sickness of a hyper-rational, self-isolated modern intellectual. Liza represents the human capacity for empathy and resilience, even under oppressive conditions. Her character also highlights Dostoevsky's engagement with social issues. By portraying a prostitute with dignity and moral depth, he challenges readers to confront the humanity of society's most marginalized figures. Liza's compassion exposes the failure of a society that reduces people to their economic and social roles. She becomes a voice for authentic human values in contrast to the artificiality and cruelty of the underground man's worldview. Philosophically, Liza underscores one of Dostoevsky's central concerns: the tension between freedom and redemption. She offers the underground man a chance to escape his underground existence, but he is free to reject it, and he does. This rejection illustrates the tragic dimension of human freedom. Individuals can choose not only good but also self-destruction. Conclusion. Though Liza appears only briefly in Notes from Underground, her importance to the narrative and its themes is profound. She functions as a foil to the underground man, offering him a chance at connection and redemption that he tragically rejects. Symbolically, she represents compassion, sincerity, and the possibility of grace, in contrast to the bitterness and alienation of the narrator. Her role as a socially marginalized prostitute further emphasizes Dostoevsky's insistence on the humanity of the oppressed and his critique of a society that perpetuates degradation. Ultimately, Liza's departure underscores the tragic message of the novella: redemption is possible, but only if one chooses to accept it. The underground man, trapped in his spite and hyper-consciousness, cannot. Liza thus remains not only a secondary character but the moral and symbolic heart of Notes from Underground, embodying the fragile hope of connection and the tragedy of its rejection.